breakfast puppies?
This podcast contains adult language and content and is meant for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, Paul. Oh, hey, Ringo. We're just listening to the Glitterbois.
Moving through chronological order in the series brings us next to a pair of books that we're going to do in the same discussion because they're both pretty short as these were, but that is not a statement of their content. So we got Road Hogs and Mutants Down Under, the next two supplements for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game. I believe this is 1986 and 1988, respectively. Now, I had never read these before. I've had them for years, but never actually read them until preparing for this episode. And holy shit, Road Hogs is awesome. Why are these rules not reprinted in every goddamn book that they do? Because it's concise, it's quick. These vehicle rules are what I have wanted in Palladium for so long and never knew were right there waiting for me to read.
Yeah, when I was going through it, I've read it a few times, but I was looking more at the animals, right? I was looking for animals like that I could convert into TMNT. I didn't read really the fluff or the vehicles and stuff, which I really regret now.
Mm-hmm.
The super stupid simple rules.
Well, the vehicles are just three things.
Yeah.
There's a statement here at the beginning of the vehicle rules for Road Hogs section. And when I read this statement, it really resonated with me. It said, the rules are not overly complicated. The basic idea that vehicles are treated exactly like powered armor. And that clicked something in my brain. And that was the realization that Palladium vehicles and power armor don't really actually have much in the way of game stats. Sure, their descriptions in some of the Rifts books might be overly long and have a whole lot of details. But I then look back at my Shadowrun books and how a vehicle in Shadowrun has like 20 different stats.
Oh, yeah.
They are ridiculously complicated. Here, it's 3 stats, and these are stats that your character already has. The concept of a vehicle as just armor, brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it makes you go faster.
Yep, that's it.
Because, it like you're saying, STC, AR, speed. That's it. It's just armor that you put in. You strap the vehicle onto yourself, basically, and away you go.
It is armor that gives you extra speed, gives you extra STC, gives you armor defense, and requires a skill roll to use in some ways. So you're really just engaging with mechanics that are already on your character sheet.
You can see these vehicle modification rules showing up other places in bits and pieces, but in this complete format, I can't recall where it shows up anywhere else.
Well, they do mention that it's in Heroes Unlimited, but again, Heroes Unlimited is something I don't have as much experience with. Yeah. I can't personally recall where I've seen this before. I know I have seen this before. Hell, I could have seen this book before and just don't remember it, but I love these rules. These rules are great. I'm going to start using these rules in my games. This is way more concise and interesting than all of the house rules that I came up with myself for vehicle combat.
Well, and foreshadowing here, Mutants Down Under has these rules rewritten, but for dirigibles.
Yep.
For airships with basically the same rules and just flesh them out for that vehicle.
Yeah.
And all of them, I think, are pretty much you strap it on you like it's a suit of armor.
Yep.
So, I mean, it works really well.
I have some bits of my PDF that I have highlighted with some notes. Beyond the little introductory section of the vehicle rules, I've also highlighted a bit here that I really like, and I wish that this would be mentioned more often in other games, specifically Rifts. And that is on page 15, where it talks about adding speed to vehicles. And one of the items on that table is cruise. Safe speed for extended travel. Given good roads, you should be able to drive indefinitely at cruising speed. They don't do that.
No, they just give you max speed.
Max speed.
Yep.
And so many players will just assume, oh, max speed. Well, I can just go that speed all the time.
No. The speedometer on my beat up Jeep goes up to, I think, 110. I don't know if I would ever want to get that fast. I don't know if I could. Maybe downhill with a hurricane as a back, pushing me, I might get to there. But otherwise, yeah, no.
We need to LS swap and turbo your Jeep.
No, we're not doing that. No. Or when I'm driving my motorcycle, trying to red line it in fifth gear. No.
Oh, having pegged my striker.
Yeah.
Things get scary fast.
So this definitely is something, and I know you've complained about this a lot, and I know games you've run, that comes up a lot. It's like, well, it says I can fly around at 150 miles an hour.
Yeah, when we ran the popsicles game and we
Right.
had one player who was like, oh, I've got the Sky Cycle. I can just fly over to Seattle. I'll be there in a couple hours.
It's like,
Okay, so let me.
no, that's not going to work out the way you think it works out.
Here, let me pass you by the book by the guy who did the first coast to coast motorcycle ride in under 48 hours. How bad he was hallucinating by the time he hit the Rockies.
Yeah. And they treat basically the vehicles all very generically, which gives you the ability to describe them however you fucking want. It doesn't matter because you have your STC, armor, and speed.
Yeah.
And throw a couple of weapons on it. Cool. Passengers, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But it's super simple and it's real easy.
This is how I personally feel power armor and all vehicles and rifts should be redone. I think you should just set up a dozen basic templates of power armor, light power armor, heavy power armor, flying power armor, scout power armor, whatever. And then set up a couple of manufacturer based additional templates to put on top of that. So Titan systems have these specific perks. Northern gun systems have these specific perks. And then finally, a list of a whole bunch of weapons, such as, light railgun, large railgun, and so on. And then just kind of work with minor tweaks from there. Like the pages upon pages upon pages of maybe, if you're lucky, a single power armor suit on that page. But usually it takes 3 to 5 pages for that armor. This could condense it so much more, elegantly.
So I've been rattling around that concept in my head since you started mentioning it a bit ago. I don't know if I agree with you because I think one of the things about rifts, even though at a core, what you're describing, it already is there in core, right?
Yeah.
But one, the books would get way smaller, way smaller page count, but there is bits and pieces that about the different armor that's just fun to read for some people. And I know for me, some of them are just really fun to read. And if you genericize them to that extent, I mean, for all intents and purposes, what you just described is what Savage Worlds does with a lot of their armor and the sci-fi book and the horror book. They're like, here's your generic laser gun.
They don't do that in Savage Rifts, mind you.
No, they don't. They do not do that in Savage Rifts.
And they should, but they don't.
They don't.
Yeah. I think you can do the best of both worlds. You can keep the descriptions without all of the repeat text. That's the problem, is there's so much repeat text that doesn't need to be repeated. You can take all of these stats, put them in a table, simplify some things to some basic templates, and then have a paragraph subsection for, okay, well, we've introduced this suit. This is what makes it special. This is its history. You can still have that without devoting 5 pages of a book to it.
But sometimes the flavor text is so good.
It rarely.
No,
Rarely.
Okay, maybe it's the flavor text I think in my head. I think it might be the flavor text is in my head.
There's some good stuff out there.
Yeah.
There is. But usually it's one original sentence smack in the middle of a whole bunch of copy paste.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, this is concise.
Yeah,
this is beautiful.
Absolutely.
This gets everything that you need to know.
Yeah.
And the fact is, these weapons or these vehicles are really put here for one reason: not to be driven, to be destroyed.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and the prices and stuff, I always forget because of when this was published, how low the prices are, but it's also the economy in the world is very, very, this is actually a lot of money in the world if you were to have it to try to go all out. It feeds right into the, how you control your vehicle, because they decide to add a bunch of skills, because it wouldn't be a Palladium game if they didn't add a bunch of skills.
But there aren't that many.
Well,
It's just some piloting skills.
yeah,
That's it.
It makes me feel weird in some ways, though, because you have like pilot automobile, automatic transmission, pilot automobile, manual transmission, which today I could totally argue should be separate skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when it was published in the mid 80s, there's still a lot of manuals.
Oh yeah, it was still standard.
Yeah.
I mean, they were falling off, but still very standard.
Let's talk about this control system.
Yeah.
This again, this is the ultimate crux of how combat and how vehicle systems are handled. Now, we talked about that cruising speed. One of the control functions, the first one on the list, is you need to make a check when your vehicle speed goes over its cruising value.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. It's in the text. I'm going to copy and paste that into my house rules for Rifts, because that's the way it should be. When someone's like, "Oh, this thing goes 500 miles an hour," I'm like, we're gonna half that on a good day.
Right. Yeah. Halving. I was thinking that'd be a good rule of thumb. Halving.
Yep.
Whatever it says. Right. But maybe not. Maybe like a third off. But no, that could be something you can wiggle. Right. And if you go over it, you got to make a piloting roll.
Well, these are not just a third. No, it gets worse and worse.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
When we're talking the super high speeds, like we're just looking here. We got 450 miles per hour at speed class of 23, which is a speed of 660. And the cruising speed is 145. That's less than half.
Yeah. I was noticing that some of them, as they get top end, the cruising speed is way lower. On a car, yeah, I could totally see that.
It looks like they started with 10, 20, 30 and then hit 45. And from there, it was just.
Yeah. And the black, I'll tell you what, the PDF of this book, of that table, is really hard to read. Just FYI.
I don't know if I've ever seen them do a table like that before.
No. And there's a reason.
Yeah. Well, let's see. How does it look on print?
On print, it's not as bad.
Actually, no, it's still pretty bad.
It's readable, at least. On a PDF, it's almost unlegible.
I have my first printing copy here.
Yeah. Black bar with, I mean, they needed to make the text bold or something, white bold or something. You also have, like, if you're exceeding the speed of the road, because that was the other thing that comes up in Rifts all the time. Well, my max speed is 150 miles an hour. Yeah, but you're basically on a 2 deer wide forest trail. You're not going to be able to pull that off. But it says I can. Well, okay. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say you can. It doesn't say you can't. And I'm saying no.
I'm sorry. I'm in an MDC vehicle. Trees are SDC.
You're not.
Yeah. That doesn't matter.
This is why in my worlds, iron trees show up randomly.
Well, trees are SDC, but that didn't help those biker scouts on indoor.
No.
Nope.
Well, if that's the case, then anyone wearing MDC armor should be taking damage when they take an MDC shot, regardless of whether or not the damage hits.
Well, just so you know, there are some house rules out there for that.
There are also rules on taking SDC, actually rules as written, if you take concussion-based, like missile-type damage that blow over, but, whatever.
I would like to direct everybody's attention once again to the excellent game Valley of the Pharaohs. And that game, while it doesn't have MDC, it does include the concepts of pass-through damage when the class of a weapon, the rank of it is greater than that of the armor. So you hit someone with a shitty armor, but with a good weapon, even if the armor absorbs the hit, some of that's going to pass through.
So you go on to all the different variables about driving, how you control, penalties to your rolls, which, are really nice and discreet, very simple. Like
seatbelt rules.
Seatbelt rules. Oh, man.
Wait a minute. What year was your book published in?
Mine is fourth printing in 90.
90.
First printing was
86.
86.
So in many states of the United States, seatbelts still weren't legally required when the book was originally.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Let's talk about how important seatbelts are, children. Anyone not wearing a seatbelt in a crash must roll to see if they are thrown clear in an accident. With percentile dice, a roll of 25% or higher indicates the character bounces around inside the vehicle and takes double damage. However, if the roll is under that, Then the character instead is thrown clear and bounces around outside, taking 2d6 damage for every 10 miles per hour of vehicle speed.
With no cap.
Now, what's funny is there's no not taking damage.
No. If you don't have a belt on, you're going to take damage.
That is a significant amount of damage. Like if you're going, 60 miles per hour and you get in a crash, that is 12d6 damage.
Yeah.
As someone who has been in numerous car crashes, one bike crash and one drunk driver impact. Yeah. Even with your seatbelt on, you're taking some amount of damage. And comparatively, from when I was ejected from the vehicle, I took less damage than when I was sitting in it with the seatbelt and just got hammered around like a nut in a can.
Situationally, I've seen.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not a critique of the rules, but anybody who thinks that, yeah.
I mean, it's like water landings, getting thrown from the car, you have a higher chance of survival, but that's a whole other conversation. Again, to your point, if you're wearing a seatbelt, you still take a D6 for every 20 miles an hour you're going. Like, again, having been in car accidents, it hurts when that belt catches you hard, right?
This is before airbags.
Yeah. Which also hurt, by the way.
I've never experienced it, but I believe you. I just the whole concept actually of airbags since I was a child terrified me more than the idea of getting in an accident.
Yeah.
So I always wear my seatbelt. I do have a request for our listeners. Drop by our Discord and let us know, or just send us a message online. I want to know if you have ever had a character in a role-playing game die because they weren't wearing a seatbelt. I just want to know, like not die for various other reasons, but the difference between life and death for this character was that they weren't wearing a seatbelt. Tell us the story.
And it can't be intentional.
Oh, well, okay, that takes it to 2 rather than 4.
Now, I have myself never had this happen. However, I have intentionally caused it to an NPC that was in the car with me when I intentionally crashed the car. This is in a Shadowrun game to eject him out the window.
Right.
But I took a lot of damage. But he basically lost his innards. Yeah, this is a violent system. As I said before, these vehicles exist to be destroyed. So I want to take a few steps backwards. We've jumped into the vehicle combat rules without actually talking about what this book is. Road Hogs is the book focused on the U.S. West Coast during the after the bomb situation. Heavy references to after the bomb. You really need the after the bomb core book, either edition, to make sense of this. And I would note that this book has new animal types for your character creation joy that are not in either the original After the Bomb or neither were they reprinted in second edition. Specifically, when we were talking about what our favorite animal types were, Buckley, you had mentioned octopus.
Yep, and it's in this book.
It's in this book.
Yep. Now, the first problem that I have with this book is that you don't really understand, outside the couple of pages of introduction on page 4, you don't get to the fluff. It's very weird for a Palladium book, in my feeling. You don't get to the fluff until almost halfway through the book. Then it actually tells you about the Road Hogs. It gives you a couple of paragraphs up front, and then the mutations and creatures, and then it goes into vehicles. And so you've gone through 25 pages, and now you get to Road Hogs, evil from the north. Normally you have that big paragraph, a couple of pages of what is this book and how is it used, and maybe even a little vignette from my favorite person, Aaron Tarn, telling you what's going on.
But Palladium is not consistent in that.
True. I guess it's been more consistent.
Yeah, Eric Wujcik's books at least tend to do it this way. They tend to open up with a very brief, I get the feeling that Eric expected the cover art, the inside cover art, that first blurb, and the next few pages to tell their own story.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I picked up. That's my perception of his style.
Okay.
I would fundamentally agree with that, because if you look at how both versions of Ninjas and Super Spies were written, a little less Mystic China, but you always get the feeling that there were some other fingers in that pie anyways. That's kind of his flow on how he does things. And it's one that I actually kind of like.
As opposed to in the 90s, when we got slammed by White Wolf, where White Wolf did the fucking opposite. You have half the goddamn book devoted to fluff before you even know what you're supposed to be rolling to do anything. Yeah.
That's halfway. That's in a lot of the Splat books too, the clan books, you know, and the tribe books and all the different traditions books. It's like 2/3 of the book was fluff about what was going on, and if you were looking for hard rules, you were really hard pressed to find a bunch of them.
There's a bigger conversation to be had there at some point. The difference between narrative first games and mechanics first games, and the evolution of role playing as basically a hobby, art form, whatever you want to call it, and various benchmarks of where we shifted along the way with various eras of gaming. But in many ways, that front loading of verbose narrative was this reaction to what we saw out of first and second edition Dungeons and Dragons, the 800-pound gorillas in the room.
Yeah, this is, to me, refreshing. I like it because so many people, when you talk online about how a game book should be structured, everybody's got their own opinions, of course. Everybody wants it to be done differently, and usually it's based on how they started. So whatever game they started with, that's the way that all games should be organized. Palladium Fantasy First Edition. Like, it opens up, here's very, very, very basic setting information. In fact, no, it doesn't even open with that. It opens with, here's what a die is, here's how to roll a die, here's how to make a character. And as you make a character, you get little bits of the world. And that world information isn't even until the very back of the book. The only thing beyond that is the intro adventure and the index, which kind of how we got going on in these early books. Lujic followed the same template here. We've got very little bit at the beginning, just a tiny little bit to get you interested, stuff about character, stuff about rules, and then we start to break into like how the world works. Then we get some intro. We don't even get an index here. We don't need an index.
It's so small. Yeah, you have a good table of contents.
Yeah,
you don't need an index in this book at all. I guess you're right on the way these were done, but with a supplement book I don't know. I was expecting a little tiny bit more than 4 paragraphs.
Oh, well, let's get
the fluff later on. Now, I mean,
the next book is actually, I think, almost the same, if not even less fluff. Or no, sorry, it's a more fluffy but less informational introduction.
So Road Hogs, like what is this book really about? On page 25, it's the evil from the north. It's basically a biker gang to rule all biker gangs that has taken over a huge section of the West Coast, and they are in many ways the big bad. It was it's interesting how they kind of put it together. You had the peace-loving bike clubs in the south, and they had to fight the Porkland to the north, and they're the big bad that comes down and keeps beating people up. I mean, very high level, but it's interesting. Militant biker gangs that organize. Okay, that's interesting. That's unique. Didn't quite see that coming.
What I find fascinating about this is it's all about Route 99.
Yes.
Did 5 not exist?
Well, so here's the thing. If you look at the map, Route 99 and I-5 are the same in this section of California.
Yep.
I-5 was there, but Route 99, I think, was the one more people talked about. I know I remember driving I-5 at this point. So it did exist. And then, of course, the map on the very first, I mean, I like how the very first page of the cover is a map. That's actually kind of unique. And that San Francisco and LA are gone.
Fresno by the sea.
Right. Fresno by the sea. Bakerfield by the sea.
Yeah.
Sacramento has an inlet harbor almost, you know.
I find myself wondering if it's a throwback to 80s California and 80s California parlance. I had relatives in California during the 80s, and even in the early 90s, they would not usually refer to the interstate system. They would refer to it as what its route had been, because like, even though I-5 was finished somewhere between 66 and 69, it was just this holdover. And so I think that might be.
It could be.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like this, the Road Hogs and the break. This is the big bad. This massive biker gang, join or die. 34,000 road hog bikers and 180,000 serfs. That's for the numbers that have been going on in this setting. That's massive.
That is incredible, especially when you look at the population numbers we were dealing with in the base after the bomb book.
Yeah, that's huge.
Now, where are the Road Hogs based? Where are they?
Oregon.
Basically, Oregon. Yeah,
pretty much.
Oregon, Washington, maybe.
North of Reading.
Yeah, they control towns Eugene, Roseburg, Medford, and Weed. Now, Southern Oregon.
I'm gonna say something that will probably only mean something to our Oregon listeners, but I've run a couple Road Hogs campaigns, and I always change who has the base of power in Medford. And Oregonians will know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. Humans are not much of a thing here.
Nope.
It isn't until you get to the human elite, and of course they make them elitists, that are trying to do stuff that are supported by the East Coast Empire of Humanity.
Yep.
So there's immediately a tie back to your original book, which is like, that was nice. That's like, ooh, interesting. Okay. So they've already, for 40 years, they've already been trying to take over the West Coast.
And there's a very, very quiet, there's a couple of very quiet nods to Damnation Alley throughout the book as well.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Damnation Alley is a post-apocalyptic novel. Don't watch the movie, avoid the television series. Read a novel where the main character is someone you're kind of hoping dies throughout the entire thing.
You have a few other human areas, but most of this book is all mutant animals.
I just want to say, I love the State Patrol in so many ways, and it being a raccoon is wonderful, but given we're based in California, I really, really wanted it to be dominated by chipmunks.
Oh, God. Well, I think there might be an organization that has a mouse in the house that might have gotten a little grumpy about that. Although
they're in the sea at this point.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We don't have to worry about them because they've been wiped out. They're off the coast with the Seal Republic and the Dolphin Free State.
We have some good adventures. Again, this is something that they excel in with these books. I'm very, very satisfied with this. This is something that just with the content that we've seen alone so far, new game stuff, some setting, and some adventures, just with that alone, what was this going for?
$10?
$7.
Oh, yeah. The fourth printing went up to $8.
$7 for the original. I would say that this is $7 well worth it.
Nowadays, that would be about 15 and change.
However, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top of that icing is the final comic. I'm not going to spoil it, folks.
No.
I think you should read it. It's fantastic from beginning to end. The art is wonderful. It would fit perfectly in the pages of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it plays on one of the adventures from earlier. About midway through, you're pretty sure what the twist in the end is going to be, but when that twist comes, it's satisfying.
Oh, it's real. I read through it 3 times last night.
Yeah,
it's
like,
really good. Wait, what? And it was drawn, inked, and arted by Kevin and Warchick, and then the pencils was Brent Carpenter. So like, this is their own original cartoon strip.
So yeah, $7 for this when it came out. Now on the PDF, the scan and the PDF that I got from a bundle of holding way back when is $10. But on my first printing, $7. $7. A Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness supplement from Palladium Books. It's got the map on the back as well. You don't even need to flip in. Right there. This This is a great book. And as we tend to ask, do you need it?
If you're running an after the bomb game, I think for the vehicle rules alone, you do.
If you are running ninjas and super spies and you're trying to figure out what they're talking about in their vehicle rules, you need this because it fills in the blanks of what wasn't in there.
You need this for Rifts. This has vehicle combat rules.
It does. It does. And you could modify them pretty quickly. Not even modify them. You probably don't even have to modify
Drop them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing you would have to do is add a cruise speed.
I mean, they're pretty much there. You know, you just take the vehicle that you have, compare it on the table, and then find its cruise speed based on that. Yeah, I think you could just drop this right in. The only thing that you would need to change is if you wanted to use it to build a vehicle, in which case, of course, you'd have to adjust the costs and such.
Yeah.
And AR and SDC might be different depending upon whether or not it's MD, but the speed, the actual rules for handling a vehicle combat scene, you need it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We have gone long enough on this that I think we should wrap this and make it its own episode. I know we talked about it, but we had a lot more to say about this book than I thought we were going to from the 50 pages of content. Again, I think this is a testament to the kind of quality stuff that Wojciech wrote. Like we've got, not including the comic,
Which is a significant comic. Like there's a lot of pages in there.
39 pages of game content. And it's packed. You could use all of this. You can keep using all of this. 39 pages of game content, complete with 2 separate adventures. No, 3 separate adventures. 4?
4. I think
4.
4.
4 adventures, factions, the people in charge of those factions, a whole lot of character options, a whole combat system. This $7 well spent back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Wojciech, miss you, man. Well, folks, let's go ahead and jump into the next one right after this. So we'll catch you next time.
Starships, magic, mystic martial arts, romance. All of these can be found in A Cloak of Blades by Isaac Scher. You might have heard my name before. I've done a lot of voiceover work for Breakfast Puppies. And I've recently released my first novel. It's available on Amazon as an ebook and paperback, and you can get it for free if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. I do hope you'll support my work as you're supporting Breakfast Puppies, and it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Have a good one.
You've been listening to The Glitterbois, a Palladium Books fan podcast. Glitterbois, Rifts, the Megaverse, and all other such topics are the property of Kevin Siembieda and Palladium Books. Please buy all their stuff and help keep them in print and making more games. You can order directly at palladiumbooks.com, and their entire catalog is available digitally at Drive-Thru RPG as well. Our opening music is 8-Bit Bass and Lead by Furby Guy from freesound.org. This closing music is Caravana by Philip Gross, available at freemusicarchive.org. All sound effects used are self-made or acquired via Creative Commons Zero license. If you like what you have heard, find us on Twitter and Facebook as The Glitterbois. That's BOIS. And check us out online at breakfastpuppies.com/glitterbois. And also join us on the Breakfast Puppies Network Discord at breakfastpuppies.com/discord. And if you want to help us out, please spread the word and help us build a community. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time.